Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad, political analyst Ande Engleman on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the News 4 Broadcast Center, here's Sam Shad.
And we're back with Secretary of State Dean Heller. He's been in office 9 years, and we're pleased to have him join us here this morning.
Thank you, Andy. Pleasure to be here.
And I have to disclose that at one time you were my boss. I was your press secretary. So
not too long ago.
All right, let's start out right away with this Idaho decision.
Okay.
Yesterday, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals came out with a decision that overturned a law in Idaho that said they could not get people's signatures on referendums and so forth, initiative petitions by county. Do I have that correct?
That's close enough, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they have a law that requires 6% of the votes out of all 22 counties. We have a similar provision in our law saying that you have to collect signatures of 13 of 17 counties in order to qualify for the ballot.
All right, but now the court has said that's not fair, that gives people in the rural areas more power?
Well, the district court, first of all, in Idaho, threw it out, saying it was unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Clause, and then it went to the Ninth Circuit. Idaho appealed that ruling from that district court, but it was upheld by the Ninth Circuit. So, yeah, that ruling came out yesterday. We've taken a look at it. We brought it over to the Attorney General's office and said, we need to sit down and talk about this. How is it going to affect Nevada?
And what I'm hearing from the ACLU, at least this is what was reported in the paper, is that they think no longer would we have to get signatures from each of the counties, that instead you could, for instance, just fill up your initiative petition with signatures from Clark County or from Reno and ignore the rest of the state.
Clearly that's the discussion, and that is the ramification. Now, I'm not certain what position the Attorney General's office will take on this. They may wait to see if this gets appealed to the United States Supreme Court. At that point, then, we're going to have to huddle and decide, okay, what are we going to do here in Nevada? If in fact that's the law, we're going to have to change the way we do business here in Nevada.
Now, Sandra Tiffany, I know, had brought a petition, I think it was last year, I guess before the last election, that had to do with school districts. She was really concerned about Clark County, but it would have involved changing state law. We all would have had to vote on it, and that was to allow them to break down the school district.
That's correct.
And she didn't have that petition because of the fact that she was one signature short in one of the counties.
She didn't qualify in one of the counties, that's correct.
Can she now, if this gets overturned, can she bring that petition back with those original signatures and enact it, or does she have to go out and get signatures all over again?
At this point, we don't know. I have not talked to Sandra myself personally, but I do understand she's going to be sending my office a letter asking that very question. I'll take that letter, probably send it over to the Attorney General's office and have them decide on that issue.
Okay, now let's get to politics for a minute. Although we are talking about the recall of the governor, this means all the signatures, though, can be gotten in Clark County. They don't need separate counties for the recall.
Correct. 25% of those that participated in his last election.
Okay, and they all come from one county?
That's correct.
Okay. We're in a political season. You're a Republican. There's been a lot of talk about possibly you challenging Senator Harry Reid in the next election.
Well, certainly there's a lot of rumors out there, but I will admit that we're taking a good look at this. Andy, it's a painstakingly slow process. We probably wouldn't be in a position to make a decision for the next 30 to 60 days, but I assure you and your viewers that, yes, we're looking in that direction.
When you say 30 days before
30 to 60 days before
Isn't
you
that
make
a bit too late to get into it and start collecting money?
Well, certainly, you know, Gibbons just made his announcement that he wasn't running just a couple of weeks ago, and I had not anticipated that Gibbons wouldn't run. So clearly, everybody's kind of in this little box of a lack of time. But again, you don't want to rush into a decision like this. You don't want to make a mistake, especially at the onset of a campaign. So we'll do what we have to do, and if it takes a little bit longer than we anticipated, then so be it, and we'll have to suffer the consequences from it.
What about State Treasurer Brian Kralicki? I've been getting some press releases from him lately.
Well, I haven't talked to Brian in the last week or so. We have had conversations. I think he's interested, and I think Brian should be interested. I think he would be a good candidate also. I've heard different rumors that he both was and wasn't, but again, I haven't talked to Brian, so again, I think he'd be a good candidate, but at this point, I don't know what he's doing.
If he announced that he was going to get into it, would you still
Wouldn't make a difference. Wouldn't make a difference.
So we could have a primary, actually, in that.
Very much so.
All right, one last question. We're running out of time. Yesterday, John Ralston put out his e-briefing, and I want to quote to you from this. he said he was talking about fundraisers, and he says many lobbyists during the session that was '03, the nightmare, many lobbyists had to explain to their clients why their donations had been funneled to lawmakers who were then not so loyal come voting time. We are going to give money to candidates directly, he quotes someone as saying. Where do we draw the line between a campaign contribution and a bribe?
Repeat that.
All right, essentially they're saying that they've given money to these candidates and the votes weren't there when they expected them to be.
Right, they gave them to the caucuses, and that's what they're upset about, is they funneled their money through caucuses, which, you know, I'm not a big fan of caucuses. Frankly, I'd rather see the money go directly to the candidates anyway, because the disclosure is greater when it goes directly to the candidates. If you funnel the money through the caucus does have to disclose, but we don't know which campaign contribution is going to which candidate.
Right.
So to have it go directly to the candidates, I think the disclosure is better and better for the general public.
Okay, but we've got the scandal going on in San Diego and in Las Vegas. What is the line between a campaign contribution and a bribe?
Well, I don't know that I can answer that question. It's up to an individual candidate to determine, you know, his own personal ethics. It's not for the Secretary of State to make that determination. My responsibility is to make sure that campaign contributions that go to candidates are disclosed, and it's the public's right to know where campaign contributions are coming from. Anything that is outside of that realm is subject to scrutiny, and that's the problem that they had both in Las Vegas and in San Diego.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Interest rates remain at all-time historic lows. Now's a great time to purchase or refinance in the Northern Nevada area. Hi, I'm Valerie Hedlund, Operations Manager of CTX Mortgage. We pride ourselves in giving face-to-face service, local processing, local underwriting, immediate loan approvals in a private and professional office setting. We at CTX choose to do business differently. This is our local team of processors and operations staff that are dedicated to providing you the highest level of service. Please call any of the loan officers on our CTX team.
Would you like to savor a Trento pork chop? Or maybe pasta rags with grilled chicken? Hugo's Tuscan Grill at D'Andrea is a celebration of color, flavor, and freshness. Each dish is created from natural, wholesome foods that is delicious and nutritious. Hugo's is a comfortable restaurant with breathtaking city views. If you enjoy great food and good company, visit us here at Hugo's. It's the best that dining can be. 2900 South D'Andrea Parkway in Sparks.
Welcome to Sushi Club, best sushi in town. The Sushi Club in Independence Square uses the best quality products. The sushi is dynamite, and the service is just wonderful.
The Sushi Club is bigger and better. We have 11 sushi chefs on staff, and the service is great.
All your friends will tell you that Sushi Club is the best place for the best sushi.
Come join us for lunch or dinner.
The Sushi Club, 294 East Moana Lane in the Independence Square.
Now that's great sushi.
If you love good food and you like good wine and all in a beautiful setting, we've got the perfect evening for you.
The Event Center at Red Hawk, Michael Mondavi Wine Dinner, Chef Ken and his fabulous food, 4 courses paired with Michael Mondavi wines. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, it sounds perfect, Al. It's all coming up on September 18th right here at Red Hawk. Make sure you call early to get your reservation in. It's going to be an evening not to be missed.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And we're back with Lynn Hettrick, Minority Leader of the State Assembly. Lynn, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, we've gotten through this horrible, what Ralston called a nightmare of a legislative session. Let me ask you a question I've been asking everybody first. What, if anything, would you do differently? If you had this whole session to do over again, what change, what thing would you do differently?
It's really a good question, and you know, I was recently at a conference, and it was brought up that our caucus was the only ones that presented any kind of an alternative and actually had detail and did the work. I don't think we made enough of that. I think we didn't promote that well enough, or we didn't publicize that well enough to show that we really had an alternative that made sense and would have worked for Nevada, and why we did things the way we did them. I guess that would be the biggest single thing I would change, is I don't think we did a good enough job of publicizing the alternative.
And that could be true. Of course, Sam says marketing is all, and maybe he's right.
Yeah.
You didn't. I know you had a proposal, but you never requested a bill for it. Why was that?
Well, the reason we didn't do a bill is because the drafting that was going on multiple bills was so immense that actually virtually every piece that was in our bill was in some bill. It wasn't a matter of getting it drafted. It was, in fact, in the end, it was, as you know, pieces were put together, drawn in from everywhere. It wasn't that we had one little bill that was just so and had everything in it. The fact is we drew in everything from everywhere to make a final bill. So we didn't have to have it drafted per se. I think where we failed, if I would hate to term it that way, but I think where we failed was we didn't get our plan out well enough so people understood why we thought that was adequate and did the good job.
Okay. Now, people are castigating Assemblyman John Marvel for voting for the tax package that passed. What would have happened if John hadn't voted for that?
Well, we were down to Pahrump. Nye County schools had been delayed 2 weeks. Now, actually, they had been started 2 weeks earlier, a couple of years before, and they were merely going back to where they were. But the delay put a great deal of pressure on some of the freshman legislators. It was then announced the White Pine County School District in, I think, Lyon were going to start late, or Story, I've forgotten which one. But anyway, they were going to start late. They were holding off. And in fact, there was enough money in the school system to run until August 21 without a problem. They weren't going to get another state distribution anyway. But for our freshman legislators, our freshman Republicans, a part of that 15 that were holding to try to keep taxes down and lower spending, some of them were going to have to bend. And John Marvel finally said, look, better that I take the bullet and vote for this than have to have some of these guys who have stood have to take that vote and probably face a primary challenge that would defeat them in the next election.
How serious was the threat from Perkins to go ahead and pass SB 8, which was a horrible bill, but one that had passed the Senate? They thought it was going to be a negotiating bill. Nobody liked it.
You know, that was a simple majority vote, as you know, and,
right.
And if that had occurred, I believe Mr. Perkins would have ended his political career in terms of future aspirations. I think he has aspirations to run for higher office. I think the people were obviously outraged at the Supreme Court decision that a majority vote could do this after they voted twice, 70-30, 70% for a two-thirds requirement to raise taxes. I think they would have been outraged, and I think it would have ended his political career. So I don't think it truly would have happened. However, it was down to where it was really, there was huge pressure. And
one of you had to bite the bullet, and it was decided that John would do it. Okay,
well, John kind of stepped up.
We're going to have him on the show next week and see if we can explain this a little bit better. I was sorry to see that he was not considered a hero and has been castigated by many Republicans.
Well, so many wanted to see no tax increase, or at least a much less tax increase, and they felt that John gave up on that, but in fact he didn't. Somebody was going to bend, and whether it was John or somebody else, somebody had to give a vote sooner or later. John stepped up and said, I have to do this.
Okay, next session, we know we're starting out with a shortfall next session. Will you come out with a list in advance of the cuts you want to see made in order to reach that shortfall, or are you going to be in favor of raising taxes again?
I'm certainly not in favor of raising taxes again. We fought that, as you know. I think we'll have to have a list of cuts, but I guess we're sitting here right now waiting for, is the economy going to do well? Are we going to produce enough income and revenue that we won't have a problem? We'll be able to do this on one-shot money again one time and get by it and then get the revenue up to cover it. I don't know. One advantage we do have is that, as we argued during the session, and no one would agree with, welfare is way down. They started at wanting a 45,000 caseload. We said it was way too high. We predicted it should be 29,000. It ended at 33,000 caseload. It's down to 27,000 and dropping. So, and there's going to be an echo effect in some of the other welfare payments as well because of that. Okay, but will you make your list of cuts public, where it can be discussed? If we have to do it. I'm not going to be privy as we go along with the revenue on a day-to-day basis whether or not we are actually going to make it or not make it. I will be hearing through IFC and an interim finance committee and the like how revenues are going. If we need to do that, yes, we will. We'll be happy to come out with some suggestions. What do you think of the leadership, both the majority leadership in the Senate, majority leadership in the Assembly? I think they failed to count votes. The first rule in politics is count votes. Clearly, they didn't count votes. Neither caucus had enough votes to do it by themselves, and they didn't count votes in the minorities, and I think that caused a real train wreck. And, leadership is experienced enough, they should have counted votes. Okay. We'll be right back with the Pundit panel. Thank you so much for being
Before you head to Carson, take care of yourself with a visit to Tamarack Junction. Catch a hot cup of coffee and the morning news on one of our 32 TVs and enjoy the best food in South Reno. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
The Abowed family has an appetite for dialogue. Agree or disagree, have the conversation. All opinions are welcome. Since 1977, Adele's.
Today's lesson, another reason to take the Gold Rush Club Card Challenge. With the Gold Rush Card, you really have 3 cards in one. Use your cash back. You still keep your comps and drawing tickets. Use your comps. You still keep your cash and drawing tickets. And with your drawing tickets, you could win thousands in cold hard cash every week and still keep your cash back and comps. Does your club add up? Graduate to the Gold Rush Players Club. It's the smart thing to do. The Gold Dust West, south on Keystone, east on 4th.
When you sign up for Wells Fargo free checking, you get more than free checking. You get the freedom to bank when and where you want. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Make your daily commute easy with breakfast or lunch at the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy daily specials, super fast service, and South Reno's freshest morning meals. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And we're back on the pundit panel with Bilyeu, an attorney and a staunch Republican. Mary Lau with the Retail Association, who's going to sit in the middle and straddle that line. And Chris Wicker, an attorney, but also chairman of the Washoe County Democratic Party. Okay, you've all heard the interviews this morning. Let's start with Dean Heller. What would you say Dean Heller's chances are of beating Harry Reid if he decides to get into that race?
I would say they're 0. I would say that most Nevadans are going to recognize that it would be a disaster for Nevada if Harry Reid were to lose his seat. And Mr. Heller is probably a very fine person, but he will not have the seniority or the skills that Senator Reid does. So it would be a disaster for Nevada, and I think that would be recognized.
Just jump in here, guys.
Well, Mr. Heller has the skills, and he is a fine fellow, by the way. Harry's never really so decisively won a race in his life for the U.S. Senate. He is vulnerable. The argument that, his seniority is more important than what his voting record is, I think, is a fallacious argument.
Well, that's just flat wrong. Seniority is all important, particularly in the Senate. When you have a senator who's been the most powerful legislator in the federal Congress that we've ever had in the entire history of the state, Senator Reid has done so much for the gaming industry, for the mining industry, and for the people. It's just crazy to think seniority is not a big deal. It is.
Let me toss this at you then. Of the two, let's say there's 2 Republicans in the primary. Let's say Brian Krolicki decides to get into it with Dean Heller. Which one of those 2 do you think has a better chance?
Well, I would think Dean Heller probably. I think Dean Heller is much more known to the people, and I think he has a higher profile position.
Mary, you going to say anything?
Well, I'm waiting on the other part too. Okay. Yeah, I think that Dean is possibly more well known in this state, but I agree with Mr. Bilyeu that Mr. Reid is vulnerable. I don't think the public really puts as much stock into seniority and things like that as we would like to, as politicos think they do. But I think that the public is also exhausted with what's going on, and they'd like to see change.
Mary, is the business community going to step up to the plate in this campaign season and give and contribute to candidates? They always say they will, and then they never do, and gaming always becomes the heavy hitter at the legislature and everywhere because they're the largest campaign contributor.
Oh, I think business community is going to be very active in this campaign, and there will be contributions. The gaming, because of their rate of taxation and their ability to pay more, always has more contributions. You can't start a war of money. I mean, a war of money isn't going to accomplish anything, but you know, there's no denying gaming has a lot of contributions, but the business community is going to be very focused on their contributions, and they're pretty accurate in their assessments.
Bill, you're an attorney, and Chris, I'll throw this at you too. Where's the line that I threw at Dean? Where's the cutoff between a campaign contribution and a bribe?
You know, that's a problem with our system, and why people have tried various ways to fix that system, because like Dean Heller said, it's hard to draw the line, and in some respects, if the candidate is taking a contribution in exchange for taking a particular position or voting a certain way, that's darn close to a bribe. If the candidate is taking a contribution because the contributor thinks the candidate generally holds favorable views, then that's, I don't think, a bribe. So it's a very hard line to draw.
Well, any time there is an excessive amount of money, and excessive can be, there is certainly the indication that something is going on, there's no precise fine line that you can say. But if somebody gives somebody $20,000 or $30,000 for a legislative race, that looks like a bribe to me anyway.
Yeah, but what's your definition of excessive? Because I think the whole amount of campaigns is excessive in this state.
Well, it's grotesque. Well,
that's true.
I
have to agree with that.
$300,000 races for county commission seats and stuff like that. That's ridiculous.
Well,
I think the fine line is strictly lies in the ethics of the candidate, and unfortunately you don't discover that until later.
Well, what about contributors that are complaining that they contribute and they don't get the votes? Are you buying a vote when you contribute to a candidate?
In their minds they are.
Well, you have to question, if in their minds that's what they think, then what do they think about that candidate? Do they think that candidate is bribable? So you can't just look at the candidate. You have to look at who's contributing the money and what they expect.
There are two kinds. There are two kinds. I mean, we all know what the definition of a bribe is in the classic sense. I'll give you this if you do that. There is also a different kind in my mind that is too pervasive in politics today. That is where these favors are given, and the expectation on the part of the giver becomes this, and the reaction on the part of the receiver is he will tend to favor that position.
Well, I'm going to catch all of this because we're at the end. Very quickly, today is 9/11. 2 years ago, a horrendous thing happened. You quickly, like 10 seconds each, tell me where you were when you heard the news, Bill.
I was in my office, and it's tragedy.
Mary?
Sound asleep. Partner called and said, the United States under attack. Turn on the TV.
I was just waking up after the first tower had been hit, and I watched as the second tower was hit, and I'll never forget how much fury I had that morning. I don't know if I've ever been as angry as that day.
And I and my late husband, Lee Adler, were working, and the thing we were concerned about was we had family, all our children were in Washington, D.C., and we had family in Pennsylvania. Lee dashed for the phones, I dashed for the email. It was email that finally got through, so we found out they were all right. And we'll be right back.
Big Apple Pizza, best pizza in Nevada, take one.
Today we're making homemade meatballs for a meatball parm. You like cheesesteak? I think you're like in South Philly right now. It's the best cheese ever made. Now that's how a Philly cheesesteak's supposed to look.
And here's little Cole.
This is authentic. We'll throw some pepperoni in here. Not gonna be shy about it. I bet you guys didn't know I could do that. Don't skimp on the toppings. Authentic as it gets. Big Apple Pizza and Subs on the corner of Bering and McCarran, a New Jersey guy who knows how to make an East Coast pizza.
Would you like to savor a Trento pork chop? Or maybe pasta rags with grilled chicken? Hugo's Tuscan Grill at D'Andrea is a celebration of color, flavor, and freshness. Each dish is created from natural, wholesome foods that is delicious and nutritious. Hugo's is a comfortable restaurant with breathtaking city views. If you enjoy great food and good company, visit us here at Hugo's. It's the best that dining can be. 2900 South D'Andrea Parkway in Sparks.
It's America's largest historical district, and it's fun for the entire family. Virginia City is where the West comes alive every day, from train rides to gunslingers. Your gang can explore mines and interesting museums, visit historic saloons, and do some great shopping. Virginia City is the ultimate in family entertainment, and it's very affordable. Come up and stay overnight in our hotels, motels, and RV park. Virginia City, the Wild West at its best.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
They're still going at it, talking about the Idaho decision and the court and what it means. Be with us on Monday when Sam will be back, and we have a very special show, another one where we look at what's going on. And remember, you can see us at 9:30 tonight on Charter Cable Channel 12 and 19 in Douglas County. Thank you.